President Trump posted on Truth Social this morning that there has been a very productive regime change in Iran, and that there will be no enrichment of uranium, and the U.S. will work with Iran to dig up and remove the deeply buried nuclear dust. So I just have two questions here. So both you, Mr. Secretary, and the President have referred to a new regime in Iran. So is this not the regime that was at war with us for 47 years? And what do we think of when we're saying that this is a new regime? What are we thinking and what are we saying there? And then my second question is, with any future deal with Iran, is their handing over of all of their enriched uranium and they're promising not to enrich any future uranium a non-negotiable for the U.S.?
Well, it's always been non-negotiable that they won't have nuclear capabilities. And so right now it's buried and we're watching it. We know exactly what they have, and they know that. And they will either give it to us, which the president has laid out. They'll give it to us voluntarily. We'll get it. We'll take it out. Or if we have to do something else ourselves, like we did in Midnight Hammer or something like that, we reserve that opportunity. But what's clear, what the new Iranian regime knows, is they'll never have a nuclear weapon or the capability to get a path to one.
Iran boldly declares no limits whatsoever on uranium enrichment program, defying all international pressure and restrictions. America never anticipated Iran's masterful maneuver, snatching decisive victory directly from U.S. strategic grasp. Iran hardens defiant nuclear stance while forcefully calling out America's repeated shameful diplomatic and military failures. Iran delivers stunning counterpunch, turning nuclear pressure weapon back against Trump administration. Iran has sharpened its position on its nuclear program. At the same time, it is taking a tighter hold of the diplomatic line in ongoing negotiations with the United States. Iran's permanent mission to the United Nations in New York declared in a post on May 2nd that there is no legal restriction on enrichment under the IAEA, framing the issue as one of rights, not limitations. In its ex-post on May 2nd, the mission sharply criticized U.S. nuclear policy, while simultaneously defending Tehran's claimed right to enrich uranium for civilian purposes. Iran's permanent mission said, and I quote, "Extremely shameful. For 56 years, the U.S., possessor of thousands of nuclear warheads and the #1 proliferator of such weapons, has been in clear non-compliance with its nuclear non-proliferation and nuclear disarmament obligations under Articles 1 and 6 of the NPT. The U.S. should not be given any cover for its outrageous and hypocritical behavior. Legally, there is no restriction on the level of uranium enrichment, so long as it is conducted under the IAEA's supervision, as was the case with Iran." Tehran also warned against giving Washington any political cover for what it described as hypocritical behavior, arguing that the U.S. is using the nuclear issue selectively to pressure Iran. In a separate statement, the mission said that Iran's enriched uranium has, in the past, been under the full supervision of the International Atomic Energy Agency, insisting that its activities have complied with safeguards requirements. Iran further accused the United States of politicizing nuclear concerns during international forums, including arms control and non-proliferation gatherings, where Tehran's enrichment was portrayed as a regional threat. Iran claimed that the United States used the recent NPT review conference framework to cast its enrichment activities as inherently destabilizing, while downplaying its own large arsenal and loose disarmament record. These diplomatic tensions are unfolding against the backdrop of an active military confrontation in the Middle East. The development comes as the United States has received a new peace plan from Tehran, which has not yet been formally reviewed by President Trump, but is likely to shape the next phase of talks.
I think we can do this right here instead of at Doral. We're going to Doral, a lot of you traveling with me. Doing very well with regard to just about everything, but doing very well with regard to Iran. Again, they want to make a deal. They're decimated, and they're having a hard time figuring out who their leader is. They don't know who their leader is because their leader is gone. Their former leader come in. But we'll see. Any questions real fast? Which?
The new 14-point proposal that Iran has.
No, I haven't. I'm looking at it up here.
You're looking at it?
Yeah. I'll let you know about it later. But
Mr. President, last night you said we might be better off not making a deal with Iran.
Well, I wouldn't have to. I didn't say that. I said that if we left right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild. But we're not leaving right now. We're going to do it so nobody has to go back in 2 years or 5 years.
Mr. President, you also said last night that...
They told me about the concept of the deal. They're going to give me the exact wording, yeah.
Mr. President, last night you also said that only like 85% of Iran's missile-making capabilities has been eliminated.
Correct.
Is that other 15% important? Does the United States need to eliminate that?
Well, I'd like to eliminate it. Yeah, I'd like to. It'd be a start for them to build up again. And yeah, I would like to eliminate it.
Sir,
Mr. President.
sir, under what circumstances would you restart military strikes on targets inside
Well, I don't
Iran?
want to say that. I mean, I can't tell that to a reporter. If they misbehave, if they do something bad, but right now, we'll see. But it's a possibility that could happen, sir.
Mr. President, in your letter to Congress, you said the hostilities in Iran that started have been terminated. How can you say that given that the naval blockade is still being militarily enforced?
Well, it's a very friendly blockade. Nobody's even challenging it. Nobody at all is challenging it. Just so you understand, many presidents have been involved in things that are very big. They never had to go through anything with respect to Congress. They considered it to be totally unconstitutional. And the Democrats in Congress that push this, and probably a couple of Republicans, they're hurting our negotiating ability, which is infinite right now. And they shouldn't be doing it. It's never happened before. No other president's done it. And I'm not going to be the first. Thank you very much.
President, Iran morale.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do you envision a future where American energy companies are operating inside of Iran, much like
Could be.
Venezuela?
It could be. I'll tell you what, we have a lot of ships coming up to Texas and Louisiana. It's a line of ships. You saw the satellite. We have a line of ships, big ones, 2 million barrels, and they're coming up. I mean, literally hundreds of ships are in line to go to Texas. I mean, they're already started, but we're selling a lot of oil, a lot of oil.
Mr. President, why is the U.S. removing troops from Germany? Why is the U.S. removing troops from Germany?
We're going to cut way down, and we're cutting a lot further than 5,000. Thank you very much.
A new investigation by CNN has taken a deeper look into Iran's attacks on U.S. military bases across the Middle East during the war, shedding fresh light on how the strikes unfolded. More details are now beginning to emerge about Iran's successful attacks on American military sites, with new reporting pointing to the scale, timing, and apparent effectiveness of those operations. CNN reported that Iran struck at least 16 American military sites spread across 8 countries in the Middle East, indicating that the campaign was broader and more coordinated than previously understood. The American media outlet made this claim after examining satellite imagery, reviewing damage assessments, and speaking to multiple sources through interviews connected to the incidents. According to CNN, several military installations suffered major operational damage in the attacks, while some of the affected sites were left temporarily or completely unusable. A source cited by CNN said, and I quote, "There has been a spectrum of assessments. From a pretty dramatic side, of the whole facility is destroyed and needs to be shut down to leaders who say these things are worth repairing due to the strategic benefit they give the US." Unquote. Iran's strikes reportedly targeted advanced radar systems, communications infrastructure, missile defense assets, and military aircraft, suggesting a deliberate effort to weaken key elements of America's regional defense network. Radar systems linked to American THAAD missile batteries in Jordan were among the assets reportedly targeted, raising questions about the vulnerability of high-value air defense systems in the region. Radar installations located at U.S. military sites in the United Arab Emirates were also reportedly hit, indicating that Iranian strikes may have focused heavily on blinding surveillance and early warning capabilities. An American Boeing E-3 Sentry aircraft was reportedly destroyed in an Iranian strike on a Saudi airbase, marking what could be one of the most significant losses highlighted in the emerging reports. A congressional aide cited by CNN said, and I quote, "It's notable they really identified those facilities as the most cost-effective targets to hit. Our radar systems are our most expensive and our most limited resources in the region." Unquote. CNN has also challenged the Pentagon's public estimate of the financial cost of the war, suggesting that the officially stated figure may significantly understate the true scale of the burden. According to a source, the real figure is considerably higher once the damage inflicted on U.S. military sites across the region is fully taken into account. On April 29, The acting Pentagon controller told lawmakers that the United States had spent $25 billion on the conflict so far, presenting that number as the current official estimate. However, that figure does not include the potentially enormous costs of rebuilding damaged infrastructure or replacing military equipment lost or destroyed during the attacks. The real cost estimate is closer to $40 to $50 billion, a source familiar with the matter told CNN, pointing to a much wider financial impact than publicly acknowledged. Earlier reports had said that repairs to the headquarters of the U.S. Fifth Fleet alone could cost around $200 million, underscoring how expensive even a single damaged facility can be. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has acknowledged that it still does not have final assessments regarding the full extent of the damage, leaving the total cost uncertain for now. Jules Hurst III said, and I quote, "We don't have a final number for what the damage is to our installations overseas. Our partners also might contribute a share for that construction. So we don't have a great estimate for what it would take to reconstitute those facilities." Unquote. The Pentagon told Congress that the war cost roughly $11 billion during its first 6 days alone, highlighting the extraordinary pace at which the financial burden mounted in the opening phase of the conflict. The War Department has requested more than $200 billion in additional military funding linked to the war, signaling expectations of prolonged costs and a much wider long-term defense commitment. Apart from direct military losses, the blockade of Hormuz is also intensifying the energy crisis in the United States, adding economic pressure at home to the strategic and operational costs overseas.